Hi guys! In this video, I'll be recapping Before the 90 Days, Season 8, Episode 3, and the couples I didn't get to in the first part of my recap for this episode. If you haven't yet, please check out that video, where I covered Rick and Trisha and a new couple, Lisa and Daniel. You can find a link to that video up above and in my playlist for Season 8 of Before the 90 Days. If you're interested in recaps of reality shows like 90 Day Fiancé and Love is Blind, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll start with Forrest and Sheena. Sheena says Forrest is arriving today with his parents. She rented an apartment for them and is bringing jackfruit so they can try Filipino food. She's excited to see him in person, but is worried about meeting his mom. Meanwhile, Forrest's plane is touching down. Then Sheena is at the airport and relieved she got a text from him. In Forrest's confessional, he says his mom sent angry texts to Sheena after finding out she lied about money she'd saved, and he hopes they won't fight. He and Sheena have waited 7 years to meet each other, and he's ready. Finally, they see each other and cry as they hug. They say they love each other, and we see Forrest get his first kiss. He says meeting her in person is everything, and Sheena says it's the best she's ever felt. When Sheena meets Molly, they both cry and hug, and Deb gets teared up too. Sheena tells Molly she's sorry for everything, and Molly says they shouldn't talk about that now and that today is a happy day. And they all hug and say they're a family. As they leave, Forrest says Sheena has the softest lips, and they taste like candy. So his theory about a kiss tasting like a caramel was actually on point. In her confessional, Molly says, apology aside, there are still things they need to discuss. So far, I love Sheena, and I think she and Forrest make a great couple. The money in question is Sheena's money, so Molly shouldn't be giving her a hard time about it. And it's common in countries like the Philippines for people to give their parents money, so I don't judge her for that. It looks like in the next episode, Molly will confront Sheena about the money issue, so we'll see how that plays out. Moving on to Laura and Birkan. Laura is packing for her trip to Turkey and says she's nervous. She knows her close relationship with Michael isn't normal in other cultures, and she's scared she might have to give that up. In her confessional, she says she's excited to meet Birkan, but the situation with Michael is giving her anxiety. She tried to give him a chance to admit his feelings, but thinks he'll never come to terms with his emotions, and that's not fair to her. So she's ready to take the next step with someone else. She says her parents offered to drive her to the airport, and that their relationship has felt strained since she started dating Birkan. They're conservative and Catholic, and she says he's not who they expect her to be with. On the drive, her mom rudely tells Laura it's irresponsible to go to another country for someone she's never met who's Muslim. Her dad, who's a little more chill, asks what Birkan thinks about the situation. Laura says he thinks she's awesome, but her mom says he likely sees Laura as a ticket to America. She says it's suspicious, since he's a younger man saying the right things to an older woman. Her dad says they're just pointing out their concerns, and hopes she makes the right decision. Laura says in her interview that she feels blindsided and didn't know they felt this strongly. She's trying not to think about what they said, but admits it's possible this will blow up in her face. Still, she says she should be willing to take a risk for love. They cut to Turkey, where Birkan says he was going to be a professional soccer player, but a knee injury prevented that. Since then, what's helped him most is finding Laura, and he thinks it was destiny they met. After 4 weeks of dating online, he told her he loved her. Now she's coming to Turkey, and he wants to move things forward and maybe propose. He meets with friends named Memo and Tuba. He tells them Laura will arrive the next day, and he shows them her picture. Memo asks how old she is, and Birkan says 45. In his interview, he flat out says Laura's old, but it's okay because he's dated older women before. He's attracted to older women because they aren't childish, and he thinks Laura looks good for her age. Memo asks if Laura knows about his life. Birkan gives him a death stare and says she knows some things but not the full picture. He says some things need to be discussed in person, and Tuba looks dubious. He says they have a lot to talk about, and explains she has a male friend she's close to. And Tuba's expressions are killing me. He tells them Laura says Michael is her best friend, and he wants her to end that relationship. In his interview, he says after his knee injury, he couldn't find a proper job. He says Laura knows he has troubles, but not how much. He knows he needs to tell her, but isn't sure how she'll react. He doesn't like her friendship with Michael, and if she doesn't cut him out of her life, he's not sure their relationship will work. I'm surprised Laura is hooking up with someone so much younger who she's never met in person. She seems like a smart person, but this decision seems questionable. But then she's admitted she has a bad track record with relationships. I have a feeling this won't end well, since they don't really know each other, and Birkan seems a little weird about why he likes Laura, and is shady about his past, and I'm curious what his big secret is. Hi guys, just a reminder to please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks! Moving on to Aviva and Stig. Aviva is flying to Belize to meet Stig, and has to run across the airport to her connecting flight. She doesn't want to look like a sweaty mess when she meets him, but says she doesn't have a choice. They cut to Stig's confessional, where he says he's 30 and loves music, and girls can get wild at his shows. 10 years ago, he released his first song, and says now he's a well-known artist in Belize. He's proud of what he's done, but says he couldn't have done it alone, and introduces his friends. Perf is his producer, Richie is his manager, and Six is his G. He tells them his girlfriend is arriving tomorrow. They ask if he's going to stop partying, and he says never, since it's part of his life. He's planning to take her to San Pedro for one of his concerts, and his friends refer to San Pedro as Temptation Island, and say girls will be all over him. Stig says Aviva tells him she's not jealous, and adds that he hopes he can be the best version of himself, and do things differently this time. In his interview, he says Aviva has a beautiful heart, and with her he doesn't have to be Stig the artist, or try to impress her, which sounds so nice when you're courting someone. He says a lot of his past relationships failed because of his player ways, but he wants someone to be there for him, and he hopes Aviva can be that person, and hopes he can be a faithful partner. He hopes? He says he needs to make lifestyle changes, so he can be the man he's always envisioned he could be. They cut to Aviva, who says it's 30 minutes until she lands, and that the shrimp dish she's bringing him got all over her pants. Back in Belize, Stig says he got a hotel room to make things special. He puts rose petals on the bed, and says this might be the start of his life with just one girl. In Aviva's interview, she says she knows Stig's around beautiful women all the time, and there are things she's worried about, but her biggest fear is she'll go in with a loving heart, and it will get crushed. At the airport, he's waiting for her with a rose. When they meet, they seem happy to see each other. He tells her she looks more amazing in person, but there's something to the way he says this that I don't quite believe, especially since he looks a little disappointed. She shows him the Chinese food and says he told her if she brought it, he'd marry her. He says he's a man of his word, but they let that conversation taper off. Thankfully, she throws the food out, and he doesn't incur food poisoning. In the car, Stig says they're going to stay at a hotel, and the next day they'll go to the islands for his show. In Aviva's interview, she says she immediately felt a spark, and thinks the rumors her aunt heard about him aren't true. However, she knows he can't stop working while she's there, but is shocked she'll already have to watch him perform, since she's nervous to see him with his fans. When they get to the hotel, they lay in bed and joke about getting tattoos of each other's names. He says how silly he'd feel if he got her name tatted and they break up. Then, completely out of nowhere, he says he'd never leave her, unless she made him want to leave her. Realizing the conversation has taken an unexpected turn, she asks what would make him want to leave her. With a serious expression, he says if she can't understand his lifestyle. She says she wants to respect his lifestyle, and doesn't want to be jealous, but wants to be respected too, and he gives her a look like, this is unacceptable. She says she hopes he hasn't been seeing other people, and he keeps giving her a weird look, and asks if she doesn't trust him. She says he has beautiful women all over him, and he says they aren't her. She tells him she has a surprise, and comes out wearing lingerie, and they get comfortable in bed. I have to say, it's a little gross that she didn't shower after her long flight, especially after running through the airport and spilling the stinky shrimp dish on herself. In his confessional, Stig says Aviva might be the one, but he doesn't think she understands the extent of his lifestyle as a performer. Sometimes girls dance up on him, and there's lots of girls in his DMs, and he's not sure she can handle it. I think Stig is an eternal player, and will break Aviva's heart. He keeps saying he wants to be this person who's faithful, because that's who he should be. But he and his friends repeatedly say that's not who he is. He also stresses that she has to accept his lifestyle, so I doubt he'll be making changes. And I think he's preparing her for his shenanigans with making that comment about leaving her right after she got there. But we'll see. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. And thanks for watching.